Are we living in a time where God's opening these seals we read about in the book of Revelation? And are we seeing God's judgment happening now? Are the events in our world bringing the judgment of God? And does Revelation 6 describe this judgment? Or is there something entirely different going on? Well, let's dive into Revelation 6 and uncover what the seven sealed scroll is all about. In Revelation, there are three cycles of sevens, seven seals, seven trumpets, seven bowls. And each cycle depicts God's kingdom and justice coming here on earth as it is in heaven. John uses each set of seven to depict the same period of time between Jesus' resurrection and future return from three different perspectives. Let's look at one perspective, the seven sealed scroll. In Revelation chapter 6, we read this. I watched as the Lamb opened the list of seven seals. Then I heard one of the four living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquests. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come." Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. When the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by wild beasts of the earth. These seals, when they are removed, can be God's judgment on those who have rejected Jesus. But notice, if Jesus, the Lamb of God, just wanted to annihilate the earth, the evildoers, he could have, and he can. However, Jesus always wants people to turn to him. He always wants to give us a way back to him. So let's go back to Exodus and reflect on the 10 plagues. 9 of the 10 plagues can be grouped into a series of 3. The first 3 plagues produce discomfort. The next 3 plagues produce greater damage or destruction. The last 3 plagues produce the added dimension of downright dread. And the last plague, of course, is the plague of the firstborn. Keep this in mind as we continue to explore judgment. There are 2 types of judgment that we see in the Bible. The first type is sowing and reaping. And I'll tell you from up front, God isn't necessarily directly involved with this. He just built it into our way of life. So, for example, if I speed and get a ticket, I get a ticket because that's sowing and reaping. Or if I cut a cop off and he pulls me over because I cut him off because I was distracted, not that ever really happened. Okay, it did happen. I got a ticket. That's sowing and reaping. The second type is specific divine judgment. And this occurs in the Bible when God directly intervenes to punish a specific group of people. And there's a video I created here if you want to just check out insights on why God punishes people. And in this video, we explore why God had 185,000 people killed in one event in the Old Testament. But now listen to this. Specific divine judgment is directed toward a specific group of people at a specific time for a specific act of rebellion against God. And specific divine judgment is always announced by God himself or his prophets before the judgment even begins. In other words, divine judgment is always clear where it came from and what it's about. That way, it has a disciplinary effect, because if I don't know where it comes from or why it came, then I don't know how to respond to it or what to do to be delivered from it. In other words, if we take these seals that are being removed from the scrolls as God's judgment, it is clear God's still giving humanity a chance to turn back to him. Another perspective sees that these seals that are released from the scroll could also describe the condition of the world we are living in. For example, the white horse burnt on conquering, the red horse to take peace from the earth, the black horse, one that brings famine, the pale horse, the rider named Death, to kill with plague, animals, or sword. Just these images would have been vivid in the first century church and would have created a lot of emotion among the early followers of Jesus. Overall, this chapter in the book of Revelation is a call to acknowledge the suffering and pain of the church universal, and for us to engage in that suffering with them. The calls for followers of Jesus in the midst of evil and suffering is not to be able to explain it all, but instead for patient endurance in the midst of it. The call of Revelation is, in the midst of suffering and evil, be a people who long suffer in the ways of Jesus, knowing that there is a better future and a better story that's being written. When we spend our time trying to connect the dots of suffering and evil, we often extricate ourselves from the situation. And rather than asking who we're becoming and how we're responding, we instead focus on the wrong thing and miss the opportunity in these moments to be formed into Christ-likeness. So what should we do? Well, will we step up? And will we heal the hurt? Will we care for the lonely? Will we bring justice to those in need? Will we live for Jesus no matter how bad life gets? 2 Peter chapter 3 tells us, how then should we live? In verse 11, rather, since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives. For more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. Also, be sure to check out the description of the video as there's more content and resources there, and continue your journey in learning more and growing in your faith in the Lord.